Book 7, The Church of the Social Revolution, Part 4, of The Prophets of Religion, by Upton Sinclair. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The New Morality. Life is a process of expansion, of the unfoldment of new powers, driven by that inner impulse which the philosophers of pragmatism call the élan vital. Whenever this impulse has its way, there is an emotion of joy; whenever it is balked, there is one of distress. So pleasure and pain are the guides of life, and the final goal is a condition of free and constantly accelerating growth, in which joy is enduring. That man will ever reach such a state is more than we can say. It is a perfectly conceivable thing that tomorrow a comet may fall upon the earth and wipe out all man's labors. But on the other hand, it is a conceivable thing that man may some day learn to control the movements of comets, and even of starry systems. It seems certain that if he is given time, he will make himself master of the forces of his immediate environment. The untamed giants of nature shall bow down; the tides, the tempest, and the lightning cease from mockery and destruction, and be turned unto the making of the soul of man. It is a conceivable thing that man may learn to create his food from the elements without the slow processes of agriculture. It is conceivable that he may master the bacteria which at present prey upon his body, and so put an end to death. It is certain that he will ascertain the laws of heredity, and create human qualities as he has created the spurs of the fighting cock and the legs of the greyhound. He will find out what genius is, and the laws of its being, and the tests whereby it may be recognized. In the new science of psychoanalysis he has already begun the work of bringing an infinity of subconsciousness into the light of day. It may be that in the evidence of telepathy which the psychic researchers are accumulating, he is beginning to grope his way into a universal consciousness, which may come to include the joys and griefs of the inhabitants of Mars, and of the dark stars which the spectroscope and the telescope are disclosing. All these are fascinating possibilities. What stands in the way of their realization? Ignorance and superstition, fear and submission, the old habits of rapine and hatred which man has brought with him from his animal past. These make him a slave, a victim of himself and of others. To root them out of the garden of the soul is the task of the modern thinker. The new morality is thus a morality of freedom. It teaches that man is the master, or shall become so, that there is no law, save the law of his own being, no check upon his will, save that which he himself imposes. The new morality is a morality of joy. It teaches that true pleasure is the end of being, and the test of all righteousness. The new morality is a morality of reason. It teaches that there is no authority above reason, no possibility of such authority, because if such were to appear, reason would have to judge it, and accept or reject it. The new morality is a morality of development. It teaches that there can no more be an immutable law of conduct than there can be an immutable position for the steering wheel of an aeroplane. The business of the pilot of an aeroplane is to keep his machine aloft amid shifting currents of wind. The business of a moralist is to adjust life to a constantly changing environment, An action which was suicide yesterday becomes heroism today, and futility or hypocrisy tomorrow. This new morality, like all things in a world of strife, is fighting for existence, using its own weapons, which are reason and love. Obviously it can use no others, without self-destruction. Yet it has to meet enemies who fight with the old weapons of force and fraud. Whether it will prevail is more than any prophet can say. Perhaps it is too much to ask that it should succeed, this insolent effort of the pygmy man to leap upon the back of his master and fit a bridle into his mouth. Perhaps it is nothing but a dream in the minds of a few, the scientists and poets and inventors, the dreamers of the race. Perhaps the nerve of the pygmy will fail him at the critical moment, and he will fall from the back of his master and under his master's hoofs. The hour of the decision is now, for this we can see plainly, and as scientists we can proclaim it. The human race is in a swift current of degeneration, which a new morality alone can check. The struggle is at its height in our time. If it fails, if the fiber of the race continues to deteriorate, the soul of the race to be eaten out by poverty and luxury, by insanity and disease, by prostitution, crime and war, then mankind will slip back into the abyss, the untamed giants of nature will resume their ancient sway, and the tides, the tempest, and the lightning will sweep the earth clean again. I do not believe that this calamity will befall us. I know that in the diseased social body the forces of resistance are gathering. The socialist movement, in the broad sense, the activities of all who believe in the possibility of reconstructing society upon a basis of reason, justice, and love. To such people this book goes out. To the truly religious people, those who hunger and thirst after righteousness here and now, who believe in brotherhood as a reality, and are willing to bear pain and ridicule and privation for the sake of its ultimate achievement. From the edge of harsh derision, from discord and defeat, from doubt and lame division, we pluck the fruit and eat. And the mouth finds it bitter, and the spirit sweet. O sorrowing hearts of slaves, we heard you beat from far. We bring the light that saves, we bring the morning star. Freedom's good things we bring you, whence all good things are. Envoy. I have come to the end of my task. But one question troubles me. I think of the young men and maidens meek who will read this book, and I wonder what they will make of it. We have had a lark together. We have gone romping down the vista of the ages, swatting every venerable head that showed itself, beating the dust out of ancient delusions. You would like all your life to be that kind of lark. But you may not find it so, and perhaps you will suffer disillusionment and vexation. I have known hundreds of young radicals in my life. They have nearly all been gallant and honest, but they have not all been wise, and therefore not so happy as they might have been. In the course of time I have formulated to myself the peril to which young radicals are exposed. We see so much that is wrong in ancient things, it gets to be a habit with us to reject them. We have only to know that a thing is old to feel an impulse of impatient scorn. On the other hand, we are tempted to welcome anything which can prove itself to be unprecedented. There is a common type of radical whose aim in life is to be several jumps ahead of mankind, whose criterion of conduct is that it shocks the bourgeois. If you do not know that type, you may find him, and her, in the newest of the Bohemian cafes, drinking the newest red chemicals, smoking the newest brand of cigarettes, and discussing the newest form of psychopathia sexualis. After you have watched them a while, you realize that these ultra-new people have fallen victim to the oldest form of logical fallacy, the non sequitur, and likewise to the oldest form of slavery, which is self-indulgence. If it is true that much in the old moral codes is based upon ignorance and cultivated by greed, it is also true that much in the old moral codes is based upon facts which will not change so long as man is what he is, a creature of impulses, good and bad, wise and foolish, selfish and generous, and compelled to make choice between these impulses. So long as he is a material body and a personal consciousness, obliged to live in society and adjust himself to the rights of others. What I would like to say to young radicals, if there is any way to say it without seeming a prig, is that in choosing their own path through life, they will need not merely enthusiasm and radical fervor, but wisdom and judgment and hard study. It is our fundamental demand that society shall cease to repeat over and over the blunders of the past, the blunders of tyranny and slavery, of luxury and poverty, which wrecked the ancient societies, and surely it is a poor way to begin by repeating in our own persons the most ancient blunders of the moral life. To light the fires of lust in our hearts and let them smolder there, and imagine we are trying new experiments in psychology. Who does not know the radical woman who demonstrates her emancipation from convention by destroying her nerves with nicotine? Who does not know the genius of revolt who demonstrates his repudiation of private property by permitting his lady loves to support him? Who does not know the man who finds in the phrases of revolution the most effective devices for the seducing of young girls? You will have read this book to ill purpose if you draw the conclusion that there is anything in it to spare you the duty of getting yourself moral standards and holding yourself to them. On the contrary, because your task is the highest and hardest that man has yet undertaken, for this reason you will need standards the most exacting ever formulated. Let me quote some words from a teacher you will not accuse of holding to the slave moralities. Free dost thou call thyself? Thy ruling thoughts will I hear, and not that thou hast escaped a yoke. Art thou such a one that can escape a yoke? Free from what? What is that to Zarathustra? Clear shall your eye tell me. Free to what? Canst thou give to thyself thy good and thine evil, and hang thy will above thee as thy law? Canst thou be thine own judge, and avenger of thy law? Fearful it is to be alone with the judge and the avenger of thy law. So is a stone flung out into empty space and into the icy breath of isolation. Out of the pit of ignorance and despair we emerge into the sunlight of knowledge, to take control of a world, and to make it over, not according to the will of any gods, but according to the law in our own hearts. For that task we have need of all the resources of our being, of courage and high devotion, of faith in ourselves and our comrades, of clean, straight thinking, of discipline both of body and mind. We go to this task with a knowledge as old as the first moral impulse of mankind, the knowledge that our actions determine the future of life, not merely for ourselves, but for all the race. For this is one of the laws of the ancient Hebrews which modern science has not repealed, but on the contrary has reinforced with 1,000 confirmations, that the sins of the fathers are visited upon the children unto the third and fourth generations. I get letters from the readers of my books. Nearly always they are young people, so I feel like the father of a large family. I gather them now about my knee, and pronounce upon them a benediction in the ancient patriarchal style. Children and grandchildren of my hopes, for ages men suffered and fought, so that the world might be turned over to you. Now the day is coming, the glad, new day which blinds us with the shining of its wings. It is coming so swiftly that I am afraid of it. I thought we should have more time to get ready for the taking over of the world. But the old managers of it went insane. They took to tearing each other's eyes out, and now they lie dead about us. So, whether we will or not, we have to take charge of the world. We have to decide what to do with it, even while we are doing it. Let us not fail, young comrades. Let us not write on the scroll of history that mankind had to go through yet new generations of wars and tumults and enslavements, because the youth of the international revolution could not lift themselves above those ancient personal vices which wrecked the fair hopes of their fathers: bigotry and intolerance, vindictiveness and vanity, envy, hatred and malice, and all uncharitableness. End of Book 7, Part 4. End of Book 7. Recording by Michelle Harris. End of The Prophets of Religion by Upton Sinclair.